Hello, I've been learning Unreal Engine now for the last few years and I feel like I'm finally ready to start making an actual project. So I thought it'd be a really good idea to sort of start making these devlogs where I can talk through the issues I've been having, the solutions I've found, and what I plan to do in the future. And it's partly just for my own purposes, just to be able to sort of see progress. But I thought it'd be interesting to sort of show everyone else, you know, how it's going and what it's like, and if you've got any inputs as well, it'll be really good to hear. And I just feel like it'll be a valuable experience all around. So this week I've been working on my equipment system and trying to fix some bugs that I've been having. So my characters essentially have two different types of components: systems and managers. Systems essentially run the gameplay logic, sort of cover or equipment or climbing or traversal or whatever, and managers sort of manage those systems themselves. So I've got one which is a state manager, I've got another which is an action handler, and so on. So my character has something called the master action handler, and that's a component which essentially grants or denies permission for different actions. So the idea is that if my character is climbing, for example, I want to stop them from being able to reload or crouch, for example, those kind of things. So the idea is that this one component has to query what the character is actually doing in the state manager, and it either allows the system component to carry out the action or it denies it, depending on the circumstances. So my issue with the equipment system is that my weapon swap system has a sequence of animations such as draw, holster, pick up, drop, and so on. And depending on the context of the situation, you want to play different animations, and usually it's a few of them. And the problem was my permission system was granting permission only for the first action and not the others because they were being blocked by the first one. So I had to resolve that. I can't really explain how I did it right now because it's kind of just debugging this sort of massive chunk of text and code, but that's progress. At least I managed to get it done because by the end I had the full sequence working correctly, and that was very pleasing to be able to see. So it's worth noting that although I've been using Unreal Engine for 3 years, I've mostly been using blueprints, and it's only the last year or so that I've actually been getting into C++. And I'm not a coder, I consider myself more as an artist. So it's all very new to me. And I know Unreal Engine C++ is different to regular C++, and it's, I don't know, don't trust me. So I can read C++, but I still struggle to write it. I feel like I can understand the language, but I still struggle to speak it. So I understand how things are meant to go from blueprints, but the whole syntax and the way you type code, it still kind of confuses me. So I've been using quite a lot of ChatGPT to sort of help me fix my code, and I feel like I'm becoming overly reliant on it to actually write code, and this is a big flaw in how I'm doing it. So I really want to fix that going forward, as I know it's a weakness. So to be able to tackle this better, I decided to step away, have a break from my equipment system, and instead create a completely different system from scratch and try and not use AI to help me, and just sort of try and struggle on my own to write it using C++, which is something I've been wanting to implement. So I began this by creating a cover actor, and what I did is I gave it a mesh and a spline. So I decided to go with a spline system because I tested it in blueprints before, and I'd also tested a line trace system where you detect the wall and use its normal to sort of lock your character's rotation or something like that. And I found that system quite clunky. Personally, I'm sure it's just a problem with my coding abilities in Blueprint, but I felt like it was too prone to going wrong, and when you have a complex gameplay and complex levels, I felt like it was just risking too much. So although it's a bit more time consuming to create splines in a level, I feel like it's the more stable version going forward, and I just feel like it will give me better results in the end. So as annoying as it is, I feel like it is for the better. So once I had my cover actor in place, I wanted to debug the spline itself to make sure its axes were all sort of pointing in the correct direction, to make sure Z was pointing upwards, Y was going along the spline, along the wall, and X is pointing outwards. And the reason is because that's going to define my character's rotation so they can follow curved walls and such. I then created a cover component which is going to contain all of the cover related features and logic on the character, because I feel like having a scalable and maintainable system. So once I had my cover component, I then had it find the closest point location on it to the character, and this was going to be my target rotation, what the character was essentially going to snap to. So I was going to use an animation montage to transition from the standing to the wall snap, and the reason is I was going to use root motion to move from the player's position up to the target on the spline. And I tested this kind of thing when I was like testing a climbing system in Blueprints, and I essentially used, I think it was called motion warping. So in my system, I currently have an animation montage component. And the reason I've done that is because rather than having play montage and trying to find anim instances across my various components, I felt like it was just simpler for them all to call to a single point, and hopefully, I hope that'll make debugging easier, because rather than having to search all my code looking for what specifically triggered the montage if something is playing incorrectly, I can instead just debug this one section, and I'm hoping that'll be useful going forwards. The problem is, up to this point I'd only really worked on the equipment system, so my animation montage system was tightly coupled with the equipment system, including enums and a few other stray variables which only really related to the equipment, and that meant it wasn't a generic play montage function, which meant I couldn't use it for my cover system. So I had two options essentially going forward. I either create a separate series of functions which are generalized and generic and leave my current equipment related montages, or, and this is probably the better option, I have to instead rip apart my entire equipment system and animation montages to make sure the two are decoupled. And as annoying as it is, I do want to make sure I'm progressing in the correct architecture sense, because I feel like as I go down the line, doing things incorrectly is only going to make problems harder. So as annoying as it is, I feel like the next step I have to do is going to be to return to my equipment system and decouple it from the animations. So I wanted a break from the equipment system, so I went to the cover system. So that required me going back to the animation montage system, and now I'm back at the equipment system. I feel like I'm just doing one big circle essentially around, and as annoying as it is, it feels like I'm just right back where I didn't want to be and I wanted to rest from. And what's annoying is that it completely wrecked my momentum. So I already feel like the progress I'm making is going very, very slowly. I felt like I was going in leaps and strides initially, but as I've gone into more specialized and minute details, it feels like it's getting slower and slower, especially as I'm trying to correct the architecture so that I can progress correctly going forwards. And it just feels really demotivating and really frustrating that I have to go through the setback. Now, I know this kind of thing happens in game dev, it's really, really annoying. So as annoying as it is, I do want scalable and correctly laid out architecture. So I feel like the correct process going forwards is to decouple the two and ensure this system is laid out correctly so I can easily add in other systems in the future. Otherwise, it's just going to get more complicated the more I increase the system. So although it's really painful, I do think it's for the best. So my plan for next week is to try and hopefully finish refactoring the two systems so that they can be decoupled, and I can then start using the animation system for my montage system. And if I'm really good with time, I should hope to even have animation montages for my cover system so I can at least start implementing the transitions into cover. But having said that, my focus is to do things properly and to not patch them. So even if I don't meet those goals, I will still feel happy that I've done things the correct way. Thanks for listening. I hope to keep updating on project progress. I'll try and keep doing regular updates on the problems I encountered, how I tried to fix them, and my plans for going forwards. But I also hope to do more detailed breakdowns as well as other more thorough topics. So there's kind of going to be a range of different topics. I think this is just one of a small series of updates that I'm just going to hope to do regularly as like a means of motivation. So if you have any suggestions, be sure to leave them in the comments. Or if you've had any similar situations, I'd love to hear about them, because I feel like it's always good to share stories and to hear when other people are having the same frustrations and issues. Either way, thank you for listening. Bye.